figuratively, not literally. Kind of. It's kind of the next move, yes. The next move. What's the next move? It's not a project per se, but it's kind of what's the next move in a situation. So I talked about a manager, and he gets the job, and he's excited, he's got enthusiasm, morale gets high for a while, and it's going good, and then all of a sudden things start to get lower, and things get backed up, and morale's getting lower and lower, and he's working harder and harder. He's taking time away from his family, church, everything else, because his duties at work are piling up. So he goes to the one-minute manager and asks, what should I do? And he explains that his problem is monkeys. He's taking everybody's monkeys on for himself, and that he shouldn't be. And it's causing backup, it's causing problems, and then when it's not being managed right at his level, the people beneath him, that affects the other departments, that affects his boss. His boss gets nervous, and that creates more work, okay? And it's a vicious cycle. He asked if he went to efficiency time management. He said, yeah, but that put me back a few days, and he said that you may be efficient at those things, but are you doing the right things? Okay, sometimes we get doing things and wasting. We're doing it efficiently, but it's not the right thing to do. So the definition of a monkey is the next move. I did get off a little bit. I got onto the third lesson instead of the second lesson, so I'm going to correct that. Sorry if that was confusing to people. So, and what we do a lot of times, somebody said, I got a problem, and then they don't have time to think about it, so he says, what? I'll think of something and get back with you. So what has he done? He's taken that monkey on his back, and now the other person is his boss, the staff worker is his boss, and they come in and they say, hey, now they can't do anything because they're waiting on the boss to figure it out, and he's already swamped, so he's taken all these monkeys. Their monkeys are getting sick, they're not getting taken care of, and then the staff becomes his boss, and they're asking for progress reports. So for every monkey, there are two parties involved, one to work it and one to supervise. He just acquired the worker role, and his supervisor the subordinate role. Okay? So it began to create problems, and so he said the efficiency, make sure. He said, you became more efficient, but you were doing the wrong things. You were like a pilot making great landings at the wrong airport. And you see some people, and they're just inefficient. And they're there till 9 o'clock, and they're working. You're like, how can it take that long? Well, they're inefficient. They're doing all these things that they shouldn't be doing, and then the staff has nothing to do. And they're overworked. So I got off, and I'm going to get back on track. So he went back. After he met with the one-minute manager, he went back to his office and realized how many monkeys he picked up. And he realized that he and his wife had picked up the kids' monkeys. Okay, this affects family. Okay, we're celebrating Father's Day. This principle works everywhere. He said recently their son came home and said, Mom, Dad, I made the junior tennis team. Parents said, great, isn't that wonderful? We're so proud of you. Then he said, there's only one problem. I need a ride to practice after school every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And somebody needs to pick me up when we're done. Okay? And what is that? A monkey, okay? What had started out as a celebration turned into a monkey. The monkey quickly multiplied. The wife said to son, I can take you Monday and some Fridays, but Wednesdays are a real problem for me. Who else is on your team, so maybe I can set up a carpool? Okay? After son told her who was on the team, she said, I'll get on this right away and let you know who'll be driving you. Without a care in the world, his son ran off to watch TV with a cheery, thanks, Mom. Okay? So it's all the responsibilities on the parents. Of course, the son couldn't drive, but what could he have done? Figured it out, yes. Got a ride, figured it out, and worked things out. It was his monkey. He's on the team. He can figure things out, ask people. We want to take care of everything for them. We very easily pick up people's monkeys in all areas of life. Okay, this is something you find. Some people pick them up, and some people are glad to give the monkey to somebody else. Okay, I love giving monkeys to my wife, you know, that's good. But we have to be careful. In the process, we neglect our own monkeys and make other people dependent on us and deprive them the opportunity to learn and solve their own problems. We think we're helping our kids, but what are we doing? We're hindering them, okay? They don't know how to handle responsibility. They just expect somebody else to take care of everything, and we do everything for them. General George C. Marshall once said, if you want someone to be for you, never let him feel that he is dependent on you. Make him feel that you are in some way dependent on him. And he realized he had become a rescuer, someone who was doing for others what they could do for themselves. Okay, this is so important. Every time that person came to him with a problem, he took the monkey away. He was, in essence, saying, you're not capable of handling this. I'll handle this, okay? And that's really, it's hurting the supervisor because they're going to take on too many monkeys, more than they can handle. And then the staff, they're not learning responsibility. They're not learning how to handle things. Same with children. The one-minute manager said he was not alone, that there was a lot of loving people who were running around trying to help others, but were crippling them by making them dependent. Okay, think about this. Maybe with your spouse or your kids. Well, I'm going to take all the responsibility. I'll take all these monkeys. It's my job. And nobody learns responsibility. We had almost institutionalized rescuing in our government and in our society. Okay, think about that. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but what have we done? We've kind of rewarded poor decision making in a way. If I was reading a book and they said they said first, to be middle class in America, you have to do three things. The richest country in the world, middle class, three things. Anybody tell me the three things that you have to do? Get a job. Yep, get a job. What? Home? No, it's okay. Just graduate high school, get a job, and don't have children before you're married. Okay, those three things, 99% of people that do those three things are middle class in America, which is the richest country in the world. But what have we done? You make poor decisions, what happens? There's usually consequences. What has the government come along and done? We're going to reward you for that. We're going to give you a check, okay? You didn't graduate high school, you're having kids and you're not married, you don't want to work. We'll give you a check for that, okay? So it used to be the wages of sin. There was a penalty. Now there's a reward for it, okay? You make these bad decisions, we'll rescue you from all your bad decisions, and the more you make, the more we'll reward you, okay? The more kids you have, we'll reward you for that. You don't want to work? Well, we'll pay for everything, okay? So that's really what's happening is the government is rescuing people from bad decisions, okay? So the one-minute manager illustrated the depths of rescuing in the country by telling his example of Little League. I'm just going to read this story. He said, when I was young, if we wanted to play baseball, we had three problems. First of all, we needed equipment. In those days, the one thing that guaranteed you would play was having a bat. There just weren't that many bats available then, and if your bat broke, you'd never even think about running home and asking your parents to buy you a new one. Instead, you'd pound a few nails in it and wrap it with tape. I'll never forget running down to first base with my hands vibrating from one of those broken bats. I also didn't know a baseball was white until I was 9. That's when we got our first TV. All the balls we used were covered with black duct tape. In fact, sometimes with the ball, you didn't know whether it was a softball or really a hard ball that just had so much tape around it that it was the size of a softball. I just knew that some of the balls were so heavy that if you could hit a fly ball to the shortstop, that was considered a long hit. And gloves, the one-minute manager continued, we didn't have that many then, and I wasn't from a poor neighborhood. I can never remember running in from the field to bat when I didn't throw my glove to someone coming out to field. Today I know kids who have 2 or 3 different gloves. Once we got our equipment, the second problem was finding a place to play. If you lived in the city, you'd find a city block that didn't get much traffic and where residents could park their cars elsewhere. That's very important. we had a church softball game, and we parked that thing behind it, and somebody hit a foul ball and smashed our windshield before we were going to go on a trip, wasn't it, honey? Yeah, just keep your cars away from softball and baseball games. Then you would use the sewers, hydrants, and the likes for bases. If you lived in the country, as I did, you found a vacant lot or a farmer's field where you could clear off all the rocks, except the 4 you were going to use for bases. The third and last problem, once we had equipment in a field, said the 1-minute manager, was to find kids to play. Since we rarely had an abundance of kids, we had to choose from what was available. As a result, a team would range in age all the way from 7 or 8 to 18. I had real heroes when I was a kid. I remember that if Harry Haig even said hello to me when I was a kid, I was thrilled. If he asked me to go to right field or on defense, I never complained. Not even when a left-handed batter came up and he shouted for me to get in the left field. I never ran home and told my parents I wasn't playing enough. I just knew if I was patient, when I got older, I would get to pitch, catch, or play third base. After we had equipment, a field, and kids, we started hitting the ball around and playing choose-up games. Pretty soon we started thinking we were real good. Then someone would say, I understand Keith Dollar has a group that plays ball in his neighborhood. So someone would see Dollar in school and challenge his team to a game. We'd play and beat them, and then someone else would say, I understand Bill Bush has a group. So we'd challenge them and beat them. We ended up having a 6-team league when I was a kid. But who did all the planning? We did. Who did all the organizing? We did. And the motivating and controlling? We did, exclaimed the 1-minute manager. And who does it today? The parents. All the kids have to do is get dressed. And do they get dressed? They look like Joe DiMaggio or Willie Mays. He says, as parents, we have taken away all the next moves from our kids. We plan everything for them. As a result, all the monkeys on are on our backs, and the kids don't learn responsibility. Okay, we wonder why the millennials, the generation 30, 40, they're still living in their parents' house because the parents are doing everything for them. Why would you want to leave? You're getting free rent. They're making all the decisions, taking care of everything. These kids don't know how to handle responsibility. In a well-intentioned desire to give them the good things we didn't have, we sometimes neglect to give them the good things we did have. Okay, we didn't have much money and we didn't have a lot of stuff, so we're going to give them everything and take care of every need in their life, and they're going to be wonderful. But there's some good things that happened in my generation, but my generation before that. The 1-minute manager said that when he was a kid, if he told his mother that he was bored, the mother would do what? Give him a swift kick in the backside and say, how's that for excitement, okay? I told my mother I was bored once, and she said, I'll find you something to do, and I quickly got out of there and never told her I was bored again, okay? We found stuff to do. He said he learned the more he took care of everything for other people, the more dependent they became. Think about that. We think we're helping people. We think we're helping our kids. Well, I'm going to clean their room for them. I'm going to do all their clothes. I'm going to do everything in their life, and they're just going to be more and more dependent, and they're going to pay for it later when they're on their own, hopefully, and they have to do it, and they've never trained how to take care of these things. In the process, their self-esteem and confidence is eroded, and he is prevented from effectively dealing with his monkeys. Okay, think about that. I mean, this has to do with child rearing, okay, and just life in general. Self-esteem and confidence is eroded. Okay, what do we do now? We give a trophy for participation, okay? It's you showed up and you're going to get a trophy and you're wonderful. Why? Because they're not good at anything. They haven't learned any skills, and we'll boost their self-confidence by just telling them they're wonderful, but they know what? They can't do anything, okay? You get self-esteem and confidence by being good at something, okay? By having an accomplishment, and we just want to say, you just showed up, so you're wonderful, and we wonder why they have self-esteem problems. He said he returned to work after the conference with a smile on his face because he saw his staff entirely in a new light. He had long viewed them as the source of his problems. Suddenly, he saw them as the solution to his problems. Okay, so he's worried every time a staff member comes, that's going to be a new monkey, and I got more work. I'm already swamped. I don't want to talk to my staff. I'm already overwhelmed. He saw each of their backs as a repository for several monkeys. Okay, now he's going to use his staff instead of them sitting around waiting for him, and he's got all the work. Hey, I'm going to give the monkeys back. He walked into his office, and his secretary saw him forget to do something he had not forgotten to do in years: shut the door. He asked his secretary, "Who was first?" She said, "You mean you actually want to see somebody?" she said. He replied, "I never wanted to see somebody so bad in my life. Who's first?" He said he met with each member of his staff, started returning people's monkeys to them. Later that day, he made it a point to ask each of his people the question they had been asking him for so long: how's it coming? Okay, now the monkey's back there. Now he's the supervisor, the manager. He's supervising what should be done. For the first time in a long time, he had time for his people, but they didn't have time for him. In a real sense, he was working for his staff, but he was not doing their work. Okay, we get this sense if we do things for people, we're helping them. We're not. Okay. Eric, a man, came to him with a problem. He said, as he approached his office, he noticed the door was open. Never had seen his door open when he was not in the office, so Eric assumed that he was away. He asked his secretary, Valerie, where he was. She said, "He's right in there." Eric was so shocked, he stammered, "Well, when could I see him?" Valerie replied, "Just go right in. He's just sitting there. He isn't doing anything." Greeted him warmly, "Come on in, have a seat. I'm so glad. How about some coffee? Let's start at the beginning. How are your wife and kids?" Eric shook his head and said, "I don't have time for this." For once, Ken had more time for him than he had for Ken. Okay? Frustrating to work for a boss who has no time for them. All right? That's frustrating when you don't have access and there's problems and you can't talk to them. Endeavors to always have more time for them than they have for them. Keeps tabs on how he was doing by always noting who runs out of time first each time. Okay, so who's in the meeting? They got to go. They got more work. Okay, it's the way it should be. He developed a reputation among his staff that he's the most accessible manager. They can see him as often as they wish, which is not very often, and for as long as they wish, which is not very long. Okay? Once they regained power over their monkeys that Monday, they were empowered to act. Okay? He'd been the one holding them up. Okay, they were waiting on him. They couldn't act before he did something, so he gave them back, and now they're empowered. Now they can do what they're supposed to do. They were no longer frustrated waiting for Ken to act, nor was he guilty because he owed them responses that he didn't have to make. Okay, so he's no longer the bottleneck. He's no longer holding up his workers. They can act and do what they're supposed to be doing. He was no longer an impediment to them as when he had their monkeys stacked in his office. Bosses who are not impediments to their people can die and not even be missed. Those bosses are so rare they are virtually irreplaceable. Okay, we think, if the whole thing's going to collapse if I'm gone, well then I'm indispensable. Okay, that's not what you want. Okay, like I said before, you're not going to get promoted, or they're going to find somebody else because you're holding up the whole show. As a manager, when you get people to care and feed their own monkeys, they are really managing the work themselves. Okay, this frees you up your discretionary time to do planning, coordinating, innovating, staffing, and other key managerial tasks that will help your unit functioning well into the future. I tell the teachers, we have helpers come in, and I said, don't do all the work and have the helpers just sit there. Give them everything they can handle. That gives you time to plan, okay? Plan the week out, plan promotions, look at the overall picture. If they can grade things, if they can answer flags, if they can, don't do all the work and have them sitting there. That's your chance to, look at the bigger picture. So we're going to look at the rules for monkey management. If you've got a pen, write these down. So the dialogue between boss and one of his or her people must not end until all of these monkeys have. These are the 4 rules. Rule number 1 is a description. The next moves are specified. So rule number 1, the monkeys must have a description. The next move are specified. Rule 2, they must have owners. The monkey is assigned to a person. Number 2, owners. The monkey is assigned to a person. Rule number 3 is insurance policies. The risk is covered. Rule 4, monkey feeding and checkup appointments. The time and place for follow-up is specified. So number 1, description. The next moves are specified. 2, owners, the monkey is assigned to a person. 3, insurance policies, the risk is covered. And 4, monkey feeding and checkup appointments, the time and place for follow-up is specified. Okay? Anybody need me to repeat any of those?
Yeah,
Number 4, monkey feeding and checkup appointments. Monkey feeding and checkup appointments. If anybody asks you what you learned at church today, maybe monkeys, feeding monkeys, like, doesn't sound very spiritual. The time and place for follow-up is specified. The purpose of the rules is to make sure the right things get done and the right way at the right time by the right people. Okay, I'll say that again. The purpose of the rules, make sure the right things get done by the right way at the right time by the right people. Meetings ended without everyone in the room agreeing what the next moves were to be, when they were to be made, and who was responsible for making them. And like I said, I appreciate Pastor. I don't know if he's read this, but he really follows these principles. We have meetings and we assign a job to somebody, and he's going, I'm going to check up on the next staff meeting, and this is who's responsible. And we've done that a few times where nobody was assigned and it didn't get done. And everybody's looking around and like, whose job was that? And we're looking back at the minutes, and we just never assigned it, and it got dropped. The problem when nobody knows the next move is it can't be made. So everybody's got to know what's the problem, what's the next move. If nobody has been assigned responsibility for it, it becomes everybody's responsibility, or rather nobody's responsibility. Okay, if you have a discussion and well, this is the problem, well, somebody's got to be responsible for it. Okay, which raises the odds nothing will be done. Even if a next move is specified and assigned to someone, if there is no deadline attached, the odds of procrastination are increased because we are all too busy with urgent matters to spend time on matters that can be put off. So there's got to be a deadline, okay? Well, you've got the next move. We need an answer by the next meeting, okay? You got to report on the next move. There's got to be a deadline, okay? If we don't have deadlines, it doesn't get done, okay? It's just human nature. If the rules of monkey management should be applied to those monkeys that deserve to live, some do not. Okay, you can tell people you talk about killing monkeys. You learn in Sunday school. Killing monkeys. Some monkeys are in the category of the British civil service job that consisted of standing atop the white cliffs of Dover and ringing a bell if Napoleon's troops started across the English Channel. A job that was filled until 1948. I didn't look up when. Anybody know when Napoleon was invading? That's a long time to be sitting there after the guy's dead. I don't know, 100 years, 50, 100 years. I'm not sure when he was, my dates, but that's a sweet job. I would love that job, but it's a useless job. Don't keep these monkeys alive if you don't need to. Always ask yourself, why are we doing this? That's a good question. Sometimes we get stuck in a rut. Well, we've always done this. Why are we doing this? Don't just do something because we've always done it. If there's no viable answer, shoot the monkey so you won't be doing more efficiently things that shouldn't be done. Okay? Shoot the monkey. Okay? In order to understand and apply the rules of monkey management, it will help to bear in mind the definition of monkey. The monkey is not a project or a problem. The monkey is whatever the next move is on a project or problem. Okay, so we got something, a problem, project. What's the next move? Okay, what's the next thing we need to do to keep this thing moving along? So Rule 1 means that a boss and staff shall not part company until the appropriate next moves have been described. 3 principles benefit of adhering to this rule. First, if the people know in advance that the dialogue between them and me will not end until appropriate next moves have been described, they will tend to do more careful planning before a dialogue begins. Okay, so we're going to have planning where this is going to get assigned. We're going to figure out what the next move is. So it helps to come in with the next move, have an idea. So he learned from his boss, Alice, was bending her ear with all of his problems, and he asked her what he should do. She said, you mean you don't know what to do? He told her he didn't. So she said, well, I don't know what you should do either. That makes 2 of us who don't know what you should do. And the company can afford only one of us. Okay? That was her way of reminding him that for every problem brought to her attention, he should also bring some thoughtful recommendations. And I said this last week, teachers, parents that dump problems, I don't like this, what are we going to do about this, Well, do you have any solutions, okay? They were dumping it, and, they are on the ground, they're involved with that problem, they know it intimately, and, this is the first I've been hearing about it, so they've had time to what? Think of solutions. They're involved with that problem. So come with solutions. If you got a problem, well, we need this ministry, we need this, we need that. Why isn't this being done? Think of some solutions as you go. The second benefit to Rule 1 is that it biases any situation toward action by your people. Okay, people are going to bring a lot less problems to you if they're going to think of a solution, and they might be the solution, so bring a solution, bias towards the next move. Many situations are biased towards paralysis, and no progress can be made until someone makes a next move. When a problem or opportunity first arises, the best solution is not immediately apparent, and often the potential hazards are not obvious. You may be getting off track, but there's this fascination with these huge problems where there's no solution, there's no next move. We want to complain about these things, the climate change or institutional racism, these huge things that, nobody has an answer for, and it's just too huge, and we want to focus on those instead of the smaller thing. Well, what can we do on a personal level? I heard somebody say, people's lives are in such a mess, they want to feel good like they're fixing the world, and he said, just fix your own life first. Just make your bed, get your stuff together, your responsibilities, and your personal life, and we kind of want to neglect that, and I'm saving the world over here, I planted a tree, I'm amazing, and their life's falling apart and everything, all their problems, they don't want to focus on that, but, I'm going to fix this, huge problem, and pie in the sky problem, but we need to be specific. It is tempting for a boss to protect himself by grabbing the monkey. Let me think about it and get back to you. Okay, like I said, this has changed the way I think. Every time somebody brings a problem to me, I try to, think if I say that, well, I've got a monkey now. I've got to think about this and come back. And now they're waiting on me, and they're going to come back and ask me. I'm a bottleneck now. Leaves the staff member and the entire project on hold. On the other hand, if the next moves are clearly defined, it often becomes apparent that the subordinate can safely handle them. Okay, well, what do you have? Do you have some ideas? Why don't you come back with some ideas and we can go over them? Okay, I've found a lot of problems that come to me, the person bringing them knows more about what's going on than I do. Okay, I'm looking at Mrs. Oliveri with the kitchen. I have nothing to do with the kitchen. I'm building and grounds, but my knowledge of the kitchen is very limited. I don't cook in there, I don't clean, I just go to the refrigerator if I'm looking for something. So when they say it's not being clean, this is going on, I don't know all the dynamics, so it's a lot easier for me to say, hey, give me some ideas to help make it better. Okay, I'm swamped with what I have, I don't think the kitchen's very important, but you know what I mean? I got a million things and I'm not thinking about that, so they're going to be waiting on me, and I don't really know anything about the kitchen, so that person usually in the situation knows a lot more than you do. Say, give me some suggestions, give me some ideas. Then I don't have a monkey, they have a monkey, and it's something they care about because it's affecting them more than it's affecting me, okay? If there's problems in the kitchen, it's, don't want to sound cold and callous, but it's not affecting me like it's affecting them. And I ask them, give me ideas. Let's go from there and come to me with some ideas, suggestions. Give the matter, this is things you can say, give the matter some thought and study, or formulate a recommendation based on what is known to date. Give them that responsibility. Don't just take the easy route and say, well, I'll think about it, and then we know we're not going to think about it, okay? And that person's waiting on you. They're getting frustrated because you're not thinking about it. So just some things you can do. The situation does not stay in limbo until the boss gets around to doing something about it. Okay, so it's very easy. People can be a source of frustration, managers, leadership, ministry leaders. If If they're taking that monkey and that person's getting frustrated, they're in the kitchen every day and they're dealing with all these problems and they're thinking, this guy's holding it up, he's not doing anything, he doesn't care, okay? And the monkey, and I'm thinking of a million other things, and the kitchen's not really in my mind because I'm not in there. And that person, but the right way is let them think of ideas, let them come up with suggestions on how to make things better. So I kind of got into this a little bit last week. I'll just go over it. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 of monkey management states the dialogue between boss and staff members must not end until ownership of each monkey is assigned to a person. Okay, make sure that monkey is assigned. Somebody has that responsibility. If ownership of the monkey is not specified, nobody assumes personal responsibility and nobody can be held accountable by it. Okay, think about that. A lot of times we don't want to be, nobody wants to be held accountable. Nobody wants that responsibility, but somebody has to take it. All monkeys must be handled at the lowest organizational level consistent with their welfare. It is not buck passing or abdication of responsibility. There are powerful reasons for doing so, and I listed some of these last week, and I'll go over them real quick. Staff has more collective time, energy, in many cases, knowledge of handling monkeys. Okay, yes, a manager cannot outperform his whole staff. Okay, if you've got 2, 3 people, my wife had to teach me this. She's like, you're doing everything yourself, and you need to get help. You need to get people in here. They can do more, and sometimes it's my OCD, and I've got to do it my way, and if I want it perfect, and then I realize I just can't get it done. Okay, it's not going to get done at all because we want it perfect, but I had to get people to help, and I had to ask, and that's hard to do. Staff members are closer to their work and are thus in better position to handle their monkeys. Okay, like I said, with the kitchen, the person in the kitchen all the time is the one that's closer, sees the problems, has more of an idea of what's going on than somebody that's never in the kitchen. Keeping other people's monkeys out of the manager's office is the best way to preserve his discretionary time. Ken retains only the monkeys that only he can handle. The rest go to his staff. Okay, this changed my life. I realized every time I did something, I realized, can somebody else do this? Okay, and what are the things that only I can do? Okay, you spend hours preparing a message and nobody else can do that, except my wife. She can write some messages for me once in a while. But that's some things that only I can do. Okay, I was out there picking up trash. That trash just every week, it just blows every day. You clean it up, the next day it's there, and I was out cleaning, and somebody that was in the class said, you need to delegate that. And that's true. Anybody can do that, okay? Anybody can go pick out the trash, but nobody else can write my lesson, okay? There's a bunch of things only I can do, and there's a lot of stuff that other people can do, and we need to realize that. Experience has taught him that his staff can often do more than he thinks they can and more than they think they can. He realized that he often lured the monkeys up because he enjoyed handling his staff work more than he enjoyed being a manager. Okay, there's some things we enjoy. Oh, I want to do that. I want to handle that, but that's not really your job anymore. Your job is to manage. Some organizational policies send monkeys to the wrong owners. You have to be careful of that. I talked last week about the straddling effect. Okay, well, one of the things I mentioned is let me just read this here. Some of the companies, when the responsibility for product quality is taken away from those who produce the product, given to inspectors, the monkey is on the wrong back. So we talked about, okay, being responsible for what you do. Okay, if you're in a company, sometimes they have it where you do the work and then the inspector does it and then they fix it if it's wrong, so the monkey's not on your back. I mentioned my other job. We had to fix every mistake we made. We put a number on there. We had a number and we had to write it if we welded it. If we welded it wrong, the inspectors just love to bring stuff back. They just made their day when they found something wrong, like they were as good, and then they'd bring it back into your little area and you had to fix it, and that puts the monkey on you. You're very careful when you have to fix your own work. Keeping monkeys with their proper owners requires both skill and discipline. Talked about Gordon, and he always tried to do what? Straddle the monkey, give the monkey, we have a problem, okay, and put the monkey on the boss and walk away, okay, and Ken said, no, we don't have a problem, you have a problem, okay, and you're going to handle this. If you can't, then I will, but we're going to make clear you're not just going to come up and throw the monkey on me and then run away, okay, which we like to do. The process has taught Gordon that a monkey can be owned by only one person and that he owns it until the facts prove otherwise, and the burden of proof is on him. Okay, so we have to analyze every situation, every problem. Whose monkey is this? Who's responsible? And this is so important. If Gordon convinces Ken that it's his monkey, then he calmly and deliberately reaches over and takes it. That's rule 2. Rule 3, the dialogue between boss and staff members shall not end until all monkeys have been insured. Say, what's that mean? This rule provides a systematic way to balance your staff's need for freedom in handling their monkeys with your responsibility for the outcome. So they're responsible for an area, but you're ultimately responsible as the manager. Giving your people authority and freedom benefits both of you. The more freedom they have, the less time and energy is required to supervise them. And I appreciate Pastor. He gives me areas and he gives me freedom to really do what I want. And I'm still responsible in many ways, but he's not like over me with every penny and every little thing. Keeping an eye on micromanaging. I guess I've seen that in some churches, and it's frustrating to people when they're being micromanaged. But he gives freedom, gives them the benefit of self-management, more satisfaction, and higher morale. He knows that I know what's going on than he does. If it's a big decision, then I bring it to him. The cost of giving your people more freedom is the increased risk they will make mistakes. Monkey insurance is designed to make sure they make only affordable mistakes. So 2 insurance policies. Number 1 is recommend then act, and act then advise. So level 1 provides insurance in a situation where there is reasonable risk that one of his people might make an unaffordable mistake. So there's a big decision. It could really hurt the company, really hurt the ministry. Well, recommend, then act. Wants a chance to veto their proposed action. So you come to me with an idea, and I'll approve it or not. Okay, so he can veto it if it's that that's not going to work, or that could cause problems. Usually on matters so important that if they were botched, he would be fired as well. Okay, so big decisions, you don't want to give them unlimited power and freedom. Okay, I don't just give the credit card to somebody and say, buy whatever you want, go for it, it doesn't matter, it's not our money, you got to be accountable. Requires his people to formulate recommendations before they can proceed any further. This provides protection at the cost of his time and some of his people's freedom. So there's a balance here. They don't have full freedom, but it's an insurance that something drastic doesn't happen. So that's level 1. Level 2 is act and then advise. It's for monkeys that you're pretty sure your people can handle on their own. They are free to resolve matters and inform the manager afterward at whatever time they think is appropriate. This gives them a lot of operating room and saves the manager a lot of supervisory time. The risk is that if they burn the building down, you won't learn about it until it's too late, okay? So that's a problem, but there's more freedom. It frees you up, gives them more freedom, but there's also a little more risk there. On most endeavors, the staff assumes the responsibility and risk of selecting the policies themselves. If the manager is not satisfied with the policy they're using, he has a prerogative to change. Okay, so the first level, recommend then act. Second is act then advise. The aim is to practice hands-off management as much as possible and hands-on management as much as necessary. So you have to balance the situation. Do I trust this person? I'm going to give them more responsibility. If I can, they've got to come to me with their ideas and I'll approve it. If I give them more responsibility, there's greater risk and they have to earn it. He says the example is Alex, who exercised more freedom than Ken's anxieties could handle. He preferred to handle all of his monkeys on a level 2 and only occasionally informing Ken of what he was doing, despite his requests to keep him better informed. One day there was a huge problem with one of his projects. Ken's boss found out about it before he did and expressed their displeasure in unmistakable terms. Ken went straight to Alex's office and let him know that his not keeping him informed led to unpleasant surprise. Ken was furious and said, "All I ask is that you keep me informed, but you never do. But we'll fix that. From now on, don't do anything on this project until you check with me first." He had to move him back from level 2 authority to level 1 and it's a case where they exercise too much authority. So we have to realize, can this person handle it, or can they not? We're running out of time here. Rule 4 states that the dialogue between boss and staff members shall not end until the monkey has a checkup appointment. Some monkeys develop unexpected problems. Checkups are crucial. Wise people, even if they are healthy, schedule regular medical checkups in order to detect problems and correct them. So we've given them a responsibility. We have a regular time. We're going to check up on the monkey to see how it's doing. If it's in good health, good news is in order for the owner. Purpose of monkey checkup is twofold. One is to catch people doing right and praise them for it. 2 is to spot problems and take corrective action before the problem becomes a crisis. It says no monkey leaves his office on the back of one of his people until the date for his checkup has been scheduled. Okay, so you're given a job. We've got the next move. This is your responsibility. We've determined how much freedom you have. Now we're going to have a checkup. Okay. And Pastor does it. We have meetings every week, and he has a list of all the jobs that I have that he's given me, and he goes through and says, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? It's neat to see at a staff meeting. You'll see people doing their jobs before staff meeting. They're fixing the bench or fixing the things, because they don't want to go in that meeting and say, well, I didn't do it. We got to have a regular scheduled checkup. He said he prefers to minimize the number of scheduled checkups, so he likes appointments as far in the future as would be advisable. Said sometimes people, this is what they'll do. They'll try to put it off and say, because they haven't done anything, well, let's put off the meeting because there's nothing to report. Is that a good idea? No, you need a meeting. Why? Just say that nothing got done, okay? Nobody wants to go in that meeting and say, yeah, you gave me a job and I've had 2 weeks to do it and I didn't do it. That's why you need a meeting, even if nothing's done, okay? They need to realize that, and that usually motivates people to get it done. Sometimes the person will request more time before the new checkup in order to get something done on the monkey. Their reasoning is that since nothing has been done, there is nothing to discuss during the checkup. There's something very important to discuss, the fact that nothing has been done and the implications. Okay, so just to help us realize that, we need to constantly check. People will do what you inspect, not what you what? Expect. Okay, don't just expect people to do it and then never check up on them and wonder why it never gets done. You need to inspect. So just real summary of the 4 rules, and then we'll be done here. Rule number 1, describe the monkey. The dialogue must not end until the appropriate next move has been identified and specified. Okay, so this happens. Any problem, any project, anything going on, what's the next move? What do we need to do? Number 2, rule number 2, assign the monkey. All monkeys shall be owned and handled at the lowest organizational level consistent with their welfare. Okay, so if the person at the bottom can handle it, they should be handling it. The boss shouldn't be handling a monkey that's not theirs. Assign the monkey. Number 2. Rule number 3 is insure the monkey. Every monkey leaving your presence on the back of one of your people must be covered by one of 2 insurance policies. Wait, tell me what the first one is. Recommend, then act. Okay, so you got to come to me, give me a recommendation. I'll tell you yes or no, then act. Or number 2, act and advise. So you did something and let me know about it after. And then rule number 4 is check the monkey. Proper follow-up means healthier monkeys. Every monkey should have a checkup appointment. So if somebody brings you a problem, you say, hey, why don't you look into that? Why don't you give me some recommendations? Next week, we'll talk about it. Have a time, schedule something. My wife's probably looking at me saying, you don't do all these things. She's got a smile on her face in case you can't see. But yes, I don't always do these things. But this is really, like I said, it's really changed the way in ministry and leadership, whether it's your family, kids, any sort of responsibility you have. This has really changed my life and how to handle monkeys. So I hope this was a blessing to you. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we love you, dear Lord. We thank you for just your wisdom and your guidance, and thank you for Fathers and Father's Day, and just ask you to bless the services in the building, and pray in Jesus' name. Amen.